The Radio Forest Podcast.
Hi, this is Nick Griffin.
Nick, how are you today, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. You ready to come to Boise, Idaho this weekend?
I am. I am excited.
Have you been here before? I'm sure you have, right?
Yeah, there used to be a Funny Bone there, a Funny Bone Comedy Club. I played there in the 90s, but it's probably been 20 years. Starting to become a place to be when I was there in the 90s, so I'm sure it's gotten huge.
Yeah, I think it's grown quite a bit. We've been the most moved to state a couple of times, but you're from Kansas City originally, right?
Right, yeah. I was born in Kansas City, Missouri, but I grew up on the Kansas side, and yeah, that's where my family is pretty much.
Yeah, I lived on the Kansas side for just about a decade. I don't know if you're a sports fan at all, but what do you think about the Chiefs moving from the Missouri side to the Kansas side? That's a big deal.
That is a big deal, and I've been gone for so long. It doesn't make me as crazy. I have two brothers that are just insane Chiefs fans. They think it's kind of a knock to the tradition, but yeah, I think it's cool.
So did you start comedy there in Kansas City and then move to New York? Is that correct? Or did you move to New York and then start comedy?
No, I was in college in just outside of Kansas City called William Jewell College. We used to go down to Westport, started going to a bar that had an open mic night. My friends talked me in, and I kind of caught the bug pretty quick. I did stand-up for about 2-3 years in college, and then another year when I got out of college, and then I moved to New York for a while.
Now, when they talked you into it, did you have time to write some stuff? Or you're like, I know a couple of funny premises. I'll just kind of get up and do what everybody else is doing.
No, it's kind of like what you said. I had a little notebook for some odd reason that I would carry around with me in college. And I had a roommate who was very, supportive of me. I think, he's probably hoping I'd go up and bomb so he could get a good laugh. But he wanted me to get up on stage, and he knew I had this notebook with a couple ideas in it. And yeah, it was mostly about my brother beating me up and stuff. Wasn't much.
So did you have a notebook just because you had these thoughts, or you were like, all right, this gig's coming up, I need to write some stuff down?
No, I had it because I had these thoughts, and I wasn't sure if I was going to do a funny story or what, or jokes. But then I started to catch the bug of Late Night with David Letterman, and was on TV at the time, and I was really into that show, and I'd see all these young comics, and it was a huge boost to me.
Did you ever tell Letterman that? Because you were on, 12 times on Letterman?
Yeah.
I mean, he's heard that.
I'm sure he's heard it a million times, but I just said thank you. You were a big influence, because you don't get that much face time with him when you're on the show,
But you've done them all. Jimmy Fallon, Craig Ferguson, Colbert, Conan, Letterman, the other Craig, the Late Late Show or whatever that was.
Craig Kilborn.
Kilborn, yeah. I think most of them are kind of stand-up comedians themselves. Is it a little intimidating to do comedy to those guys? I mean, they're comedy guys.
Yeah, I think the scariest part for me is just staring into the camera. I'd rather stand in front of, a million people doing jokes than a camera. It just freaks me out, because it just seems like, okay, there's a lot of money at stake right now. You can't screw this up. And obviously Letterman, I look back and watch my first Letterman appearance, and I was breathing really heavy into the mic just because I was so overhyped. But all those guys are really good at making you, relax and telling you it's not a big deal and just have fun and all that stuff. And sometimes it is, and sometimes, you get a little nervous. So Letterman was the one I would really get nervous on. He was my hero.
For doing Letterman 12 times and all the other shows that we mentioned, surely then you're trying to keep track of what jokes you've already told, or are you the kind of comic that your material constantly overturns anyway, so you're not worried about, I saw Nick do this on Fallon last week?
Right, yeah. No, I tried to have always new material, but, sometimes I would do Letterman, and 2 months later, Conan would say, do you want to do a set? And I'd be like, sure. And then I'd usually use maybe one joke from the other set I did previous, but for the most part, because I didn't get on TV till I was probably 37. I think I got on Kilborn at 32, but I didn't get on to Letterman or Conan or any of that till I was 37 or so. So I had a lot of material built up, and I had written a lot of TV-friendly material just because that's how I, kind of liked the other comics who did it. So I had some stock.
Did you then have sort of aspirations to take the comedy to the TV world because you also pitched and sold a sitcom, right?
Yeah, I guess everyone thinks it might happen when you get into the business. I certainly just loved stand-up enough to think, hey, even if this is all that ever happens to me, I'm happy to have this as a job. But yeah, I did my first set on Letterman, and some writer saw it and said, I really like this guy. And he contacted Letterman's company, and this guy came together, and we wrote a sitcom together. We sold it to ABC. They decided not to shoot it, and that was that. But it was exciting. I had a little office briefly in the Ed Sullivan building, and it was fun.
Is that lucrative? I mean, selling a sitcom, or is it just kind of like, we'll pay you for your work, and the real money is once they start filming?
That's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, for me, as a comic, you're not generally making a ton of money unless you're, Chappelle or Jim Gaffigan or Seinfeld. But they gave me a nice little chunk of change. It wasn't life-changing, but it was nice, yeah.
Now, I heard, tell me if this is true, that when you moved to New York, you actually got mugged. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I was taking acting classes, and I was on the Upper West Side meeting my scene partner, and two guys jumped me. My first thought is these guys are thinking I'm in their building, and I'm in the wrong building. I'm pissing them off. But turns out they just wanted my wallet. And they said, they threw the wallet at my head and said, $30.
They're actually offended.
Yeah, come prepared next time.
Well, that's good acting. Now, I want you to act scared. These guys are going to rob you.
That's right.
Yeah. You're coming to Boise, Idaho this weekend, and we heard you recently on the Bob and Tom show. Did you know Bob? I don't know how far back your relationship with the show goes.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I knew Bob. Just great. The show was great, and is great. But when I first got on, it was just so much fun. It was such a well-oiled machine. Everybody there was so supportive and funny, and it was easy. And I've probably had more people say they've heard me on the Bob and Tom show than any other thing I've done, including Letterman and Conan and all that stuff.
Now, if you don't mind, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your sobriety. I've got about, 22 or 23 years, but you're over 25 years sober now, right?
Actually, yeah, yesterday was the 28th year, yeah.
Wow, congratulations, man. Is it, do you still, I'm to a point where I'm really an autopilot. I've now not drank longer than I drank, so it's not a big deal, but I know different people that had a different relationship than me with alcohol really have to still work at it every day. And they're like, I can't let that guard down. Now, I know I can't have one. I've gone down that path. I know that. But are you kind of an autopilot like me, or is it something you're like going to meetings and struggling with? Because you're touring and you're in bars constantly.
Yeah, I'm in bars constantly, and I'm around people that drink heavily. I go to a lot of meetings, and I have a handful of friends that I talk to on a regular basis. I think probably if I was just, an accountant and I went home every night, maybe it would be different. But since I'm around it so much, I really feel more comfortable, getting more support and working, a program and everything.
Yeah, I was really embarrassed. First of all, everybody I told was like, yeah, that's a good idea. No one tried to talk me out of it. But I was so scared. I was so afraid of how my life would change. I was like, I'll never date anybody again. What am I going to do? And then I realized that most people are usually sober, and it's actually way easier than I thought. So what things were you apprehensive about, like this is going to be hard without alcohol?
I think a lot of it was like explaining to people why I had to stop. I mean, for the people that didn't see me, I thought, it's going to be a pain. The comics are going to think I'm a loser, I'm not drinking, and that I'll be terribly uncomfortable when I'm not drinking. And I think that was true for a few years, Maybe people, in my early 30s thought, what's this guy doing? Comic, he's, up all night. And, I just think it got easier as the years have gone on, and I've been around more. There's a lot of sober comics and a lot of people that are sober and in the program that I know, and it's just being around that example, I think, makes everything so much easier. All this stuff that I was worried I wouldn't be able to drink at my wedding or this thing or that thing. And you end up meeting all these people who have already done that and gone through it and been fine. So
Yeah, I was worried about New Year's Eve. I was worried about St. Patrick's Day. I was like, what am I going to do on the 4th of July? And then I realized there are a ton of people, people with medical issues or,
Sure.
designated drivers or just adults that don't really get into it. There are actually way more sober people than drunk people. But I was worried about every holiday. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
I agree 100%. There were a lot more people that were sober or having one drink a night than
Right.
there were blacking out. So,
Did you do anything special for your anniversary date?
yeah, I go to a meeting and I call all the people that kind of had a big influence on me early on in my sobriety and even newly in my sobriety, and that's pretty much. I had a nice meal. I had fried chicken. It's a big favorite of mine.
Hey, I recently talked to Bruce Campbell, from The Evil Dead, and I know you're kind of a horror fan yourself. What would you say are some of your classic go-to horror films, or maybe something new that you've stumbled on?
Jeez, I saw this movie called Talk to Me about 5 years ago that I really, really loved, and some of my go-tos. I really love The Dead Zone, which is a Stephen King adaptation. I love The Exorcist. I love Halloween. Some of the obvious ones. The Descent, I think, is kind of an unknown one that I love a lot. Yeah.
Did you see that newer Frankenstein? I think it might be on Netflix or something like that.
I have not seen the Frankenstein. I haven't seen the Frankenstein, and there was a new Dracula that I hadn't seen, or Nosferatu that I hadn't seen either.
I think I saw the Nosferatu. It's worth a watch.
Yeah.
Nick Griffin this weekend at the Comedy Lounge here in Boise, Thursday through Sunday. You've heard him on the Bob and Tom Show. And Nick, man, I can't wait to see you in town. And thanks for chatting with me today. And congratulations on your sobriety.
Thanks so much, and thanks for the time that you gave me.